So, in Spider-Man No Way Home, we obviously saw our first glimpse at Matt Murdock in the MCU, or as we know him as Daredevil. Now, when he caught like the brick that got chucked in or thrown into Aunt May's apartment, and then Daredevil caught it, and he said that he's just a good lawyer. We all knew that Daredevil had arrived in the MCU at that very point. And today's video is going to be about what we want to see from Daredevil in the MCU, going over the Netflix show and Kingpin and everything like that. What he could, who he could be teamed up with, and what it could mean for the future of the MCU. So if you do enjoy this video, like and subscribe. Tell us what you think about Daredevil. Everyone loves Daredevil, such a cool character. And yeah, let's get into it. So, Daredevil is arguably probably Marvel's most popular character, arguably, and we can all understand why. We all know why he is one of the most popular characters. He's just such a cool character in the MCU, as we know. His abilities that we know, that we've seen if you have seen the Daredevil Netflix show, he is that arguably one of the best Marvel shows around. And yeah, obviously, I think that there could be many team-ups that he does team up with. Obviously, most of these all being in New York, and we have seen one of them in the Netflix shows. But this is going to be one that probably an obvious one that we probably most likely will see, and it is a Spider-Man team-up. Now, obviously, Daredevil or Matt Murdock won't remember Peter Parker because of the spell. But if they start a bond again and a team-up, I think they could be an awesome team. As we know, Peter will probably be going through a tough time without any friends. No one knows who he is. He's not even on record of anything anymore. No one has any memory of him. And maybe if there was something in the spell that maybe Doctor Strange or someone like that will remember. But obviously Matt Murdock doesn't. And I do think with him being in New York, where Peter Parker has his apartment, where he is basically, I think we know that it's pretty likely that we will see a team up in maybe Spider-Man 4, or a team up in maybe an MCU Daredevil show that I'll get into later in the video. But I think it'll be perfect seeing Spider-Man and Daredevil teaming up because, yeah, obviously he's going to be going through a tough time, and obviously having Daredevil as his mentor, obviously it would be a different scenery for Peter, because all he's ever known as his mentor is Tony Stark, and now that he's gone, I think he kind of needs someone else to guide him. And being in a tough place right now, I think Daredevil is the perfect person to be guiding him in the direction of being a superhero and knowing what he should do as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So I think that team up will be very cool. Now the next team up I've got is the Punisher. Now, we know that the Punisher from the Netflix show is very cool. He's a very dark character as well. John, I can't remember his second name, but I know he's in The Walking Dead as well as Shane. I can't remember his name. I think it's John Bernthal or something like that. But yeah, John Bernthal, whatever his name is. I think he does an amazing job, and I hope he does come back. But he said that he would only come back if it becomes darker, which it does look like the MCU is going down that route now. And I think it would be perfect to get him back as the Punisher. And I think it would be cool to see them team up again. Obviously, we know they did team up in Daredevil and the Punisher show. So it would be very cool to see them team up. And yeah, I just think Punisher is such a cool character, and I would like to see him return in the MCU. The next one I've got is Kate Bishop. Now, this might surprise some of you, but in the Hawkeye show, we did see Hell's Kitchen. Now, Hell's Kitchen is what we see in the Daredevil show, where Daredevil is, where he is most of the time in the Daredevil show with Kingpin as well. And I think it makes sense with Kingpin making his return making his debut in the MCU in Hawkeye. And I think obviously Daredevil making his MCU debut in No Way Home. I think it all adds up and makes sense that Daredevil will come across Kingpin very soon. And it will be maybe Kate Bishop will come back as well with them, and maybe Spider-Man will as well. I think it all will link up together, and I think it will be very cool to see Kate Bishop teaming up maybe with Spider-Man and Daredevil, because that would be very cool to see Kate Bishop now becoming the hero she should be, and replacing Hawkeye basically, or Clint now basically in the MCU. So that would be very cool to see. I think it would be a very cool team up. Now, what does this mean for the MCU with Daredevil coming into it? I think this opens a lot of doors for many other characters, like the Defenders. Obviously, I'm not too sure, I'll get onto the Netflix shows in a minute, but I think this could open up maybe an MCU Defenders show, bring them all into the MCU, and I think it opens many more doors for more heroes to arrive in the future. Daredevil obviously making appearances in Spider-Man as well. I think that's most likely going to happen. It's very likely that will happen. I can't wait to see it because he's basically going to be his mentor, which I hope does happen because it makes a lot of sense. And it would be very cool to have a different scenery as someone else being Peter Parker's mentor, other than Tony Stark, obviously, now that he's dead. So I do think it blows a massive hole in the MCU, a really good hole that opens a lot of big mysteries and loads of other stuff that could happen in the future. As we all know, we all love Daredevil. His fighting style and everything else about him is just so cool. And now that he's in the MCU, anything could happen. So, yeah, I think the MCU has a big future with all these new characters, especially Daredevil being added. And now we're going on to Wilson Fisk or Kingpin being in the Hawkeye show. And I do think that this has a big impact on Daredevil also arriving in the MCU. As we know, Kingpin is arguably Daredevil's biggest rival. Daredevil's always getting in Kingpin's way of his ruling of New York and his crime in New York, and Kingpin obviously says that he wants his city back, and that could be a big thing going into the future, maybe Spider-Man or a Daredevil show, which I'll obviously get onto in a minute. And yeah, I think it all makes sense with Wilson Fisk also coming in a Hawkeye show. I think it all will add up in the future of the MCU with Daredevil and Kingpin. But yeah, like I said, Kingpin was amazing in the Hawkeye show. I've said it in the past. I thought he was such a cool character to see him return. And no, I do not think he's dead. When we hear the gunshot, I think he will go blind, and that will set up the future. Obviously, that makes sense. It'll be very cool to see Daredevil being blind as well, and obviously Kingpin being blind. I would love to see how that plays out in the future. Maybe we'll get to see Kingpin in the Echo show, and we'll see more that will happen. And now with the Netflix show being canon and Daredevil getting his own Disney Plus show. Now, I'm not too sure if the Netflix shows are canon or not. I hope they're not. I hope we get like a whole new thing for Daredevil. Obviously, I wouldn't be complaining if it was canon, but I just feel like getting a whole new show for Daredevil on Disney Plus would just be so cool to see, and maybe even getting a whole new Defenders arc as well, you know, with like the likes of Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and all those good characters coming together once again, and Punisher obviously coming all back together again, but in the MCU style of it instead. Now getting all the actors back, I think it would be very cool to see. Now I hope it is a Disney Plus show. I'd prefer that, but obviously, like I said, I wouldn't be annoyed if it was canon. All these all these shows were canon, but I would prefer them not to be, especially the Defenders, because I would prefer to see them get their own shows and revamped and better shows in the MCU. I like to see how it plays out on Disney Plus with those characters, and obviously Daredevil, because I think a Daredevil show could be awesome with the return of Kingpin being the villain again, or the rival of Daredevil, and obviously maybe Spider-Man making an appearance in that, and maybe even Kate Bishop. So this was my video on Daredevil. Now we haven't really spoke about Daredevil that much on the channel, so I just want to make this video because obviously I love Daredevil as a character, and this is what we want to see from him in the MCU, and I think they all will happen in the future. So if you did enjoy this video today, please like and subscribe. I hope you had a good day, and goodbye.